Have you ever been in the slow lane? It's hard to know whether to make a switch because you've invested so much time and effort just getting to where you are, but now you feel stuck. Switching means starting over, or worse yet, going through all the trouble of moving and finding yourself in the same situation that you were trying to get away from. This is all too common with your career. It's really hard to see the forest through the trees. The signs might be there, but can you see them? Every experienced engineer I know has stayed on a team longer than they should have. In this video, I'll be taking viewer-submitted questions about whether to stay the course or whether it makes sense to find greener pastures. I, too, stayed on a team for much longer than I should have, and it held my career back. I estimate that I could have been promoted 2 years sooner if I had just seen the warning signs. In this video, I'll share with you some lessons that, if I knew about them, would have saved me a ton of grief. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Steve, and I'm an L7 software engineer. You can think of me as your personal principal engineer on the internet if you don't have one to talk to in real life. If you have a question, leave it in the comments section below, and I'll answer it in my next office hours. If you don't have a question, but just want more of my content, make sure to sign up for my email newsletter. I send out a new issue every week on Wednesdays. And if you just want to talk, head on over to my Discord. There are a ton of experienced developers over there to chat with. Dysfunctional Springbok asks, "Hey Steve, my manager is very stingy with promos, having approved a single promo in the 3 years that I've been there, and only when the person promoted had another offer. I like my team and organization, but can't help but feel as if I was working a dead-end job at L4. Do you have any advice for navigating these situations other than just leaving?" Let me tell you a story before I answer this question. When I thought I was finally ready to get promoted to principal engineer, the process at the time required my manager to go to an internal webpage and put in a request on my behalf to start the process. So I asked my manager to put in the request a month early, and he said he would do it. As the deadline came closer, I double checked with him if he had put the request in. If he didn't, I would have to wait another 6 months. He hadn't yet, but said he would. On the day of the deadline, I pulled him aside and asked him to please put the request in. You guessed it, he didn't put the request in and the deadline passed. Which leads me to my first point. Your manager is the most crucial relationship that you'll have at work. If you have an awesome manager, you always want to stay on the team. If you have a terrible manager that you don't get along with or is incompetent, it's time to go. Because Dysfunctional Springbok, here's the thing about promotions. If your manager isn't supportive, it's almost impossible to get one. When my manager missed my promotion deadline, I should have read the writing on the wall. Either he wasn't supportive but couldn't say it to my face, or he was incompetent, or both. That was my cue to find a different team, and I missed it. Instead, I thought I could work around it, and I couldn't. You need to observe people's actions on top of just listening to their words. Given that you've been on the team for 3 years with no positive indicators, I think that you should leave. But before you do, I would have some candid conversations before putting in your notice. I would have a conversation with your skip level about whether it's company policy to be stingy with promotions. You can maybe ask to move to a sister team with a better manager so you don't have to start at square one. Now, if that doesn't work, I think it's time to pack it up. Hope that works out for you. Let me know how it turns out. Name user asks, "Hey Steve, love your video. My new manager is driving everyone on the team crazy. He's very demanding in every aspect and he's destroying the culture on our team. Should I be honest with him or keep my mouth shut? LeetCode and GTFO. Here's a dirty secret that took me way too long to understand. Managers can be low performers in the same way that ICs can be low performers. I used to think that being put into a leadership position meant that you were guaranteed to be competent. It's like when you're a kid. You think that all of the adults have it figured out. When you grow up, you realize that they don't. Now that I'm an L7, I know now that every level has high performers and not so high performers. You said your new manager is driving you crazy. That makes a lot of sense to me. More than likely, he was difficult to work with in his last job. People that are bad managers are often new managers because they get fired from their last gig. Fundamental behavior change for humans is quite rare. It's possible, but it's unlikely in a short amount of time. If he's difficult to work with now, he was likely before as well. If you haven't, I would speak with your skip level manager and let them know that you're not the only one. I bet you, if he's as bad as you're saying he is, that it won't be the first time your skip has heard this feedback. It takes time to manage people out of an organization. I would say something on the order of 6 months, so be patient, at least at first. Now, if you bring this up to your skip and they don't see a problem with this behavior, then you have another data point, which is that this sort of behavior is acceptable. If that's the case, then I would think about preparing to find another team or company. You don't want to work for a company long-term that rewards toxic behavior. Life is too short to have a bad manager. Hope that helps. Asian Stride asks, "Hey Uncle Steve, I'm in L4 at Amazon and I'm so discouraged. The L5s around me seem to be too smart, and it's intimidating to be around them during discussions. All the high-performing people I've talked to told me that they're highly motivated. I don't think pure discipline works in intellectual endeavors. It's hard to be creative and intelligent about something that you're not interested or curious about. Would you agree? Hey man, I've been there. What you're feeling is common when you're a small fish in a big pond. An L4 is a junior engineer who typically has less than 2 years of experience. An L5 is a mid-level engineer, and they typically have anywhere from 2 to 10 years of experience, or more. Now, let me ask you a question. What can you learn in 5 years? A lot. The L5s on your team have, on average, the equivalent of an extra university degree on top of what they learned in school. People with more experience are always more impressive to people without experience. It's because the unknown and known part of your job feels unbounded when you first start. Now, think about it like this. When you were in your first year of college or high school, everybody looked so much older. They looked more mature, and it seemed like they knew so much more. They could grow a sweet mustache, and I couldn't. But over time, you get to know that stuff too, and it's not that big of a deal. I still can't grow facial hair though. I'm a big advocate for being a small fish in a big pond when you can, because you're exposed to so much more stuff and your growth is essentially unbounded. If you want to be like your coworkers, if you think they're brilliant, that's an awesome place to be because you get a front row seat to see how they operate, and it will inevitably rub off on you. If you escape back to a smaller scope company where you understand everything from the get-go, it's likely going to limit your career. You'll feel more comfortable, but by the time you get 5 years of experience, you won't have grown much, and you'll feel a different kind of pain, that you're stagnating, and that's much more uncomfortable. Growth is always a bit painful and awkward, but it's going to pay off if you stick with it. The L5s that you're around are good because they kept up with it. Nobody's born that way. They were exactly like you were 5 years ago. You'll get there too, you're in a good spot. Thanks for the question and let me know how it works out. N asks, hey Steve, if you've been a long time at your company and have seen decent growth but want to get an idea of your current market worth, is interviewing with other companies a good way to learn where you stand in the market? Interviewing is a good way to know what your worth is, but it requires a ton of work to prepare. So I would try to find other ways to understand what your career capital is that take less time and effort. Prepare for interviews, you have to grind leak code, brush up on system design, prepare for behavioral interviews, do mock interviews, and study companies that you're targeting. It's a lot of work on top of your existing workload. And at the end of it, you might not even get the offer, which means that you won't get the comparison data point that you wanted in the first place. Instead, if you're curious about your current market value but don't want to put the time in, I would leverage sites like Glassdoor, Levels.fyi, or even Blind to get a sense of what people are paying for your role and level. If you have someone you trust at work, you can also share what your compensation is. If you discover that you're getting underpaid through this research, go have a chat with your manager before putting the work in to start brushing up on interviews. It's so much easier than preparing for the grind of trying to find another job, especially in this job environment. If your management isn't going to budge on compensation and the difference is significant, only then is it time to put in the effort into brushing up your interview skills. In summary, see if there aren't easier ways to figure out what you're worth. Hope that helps. Angry Asian asks, does the traditional wisdom of switching companies every 2 years still apply to FANG companies if you want to optimize salary? I am the wrong guy to ask. I've been at my company for 18 years now, and I've never optimized for salary. I've optimized for professional growth and stability. Career growth and salary are related, but not the same. It's worked out for me. The Amazon stock price, adjusted for the stock split, would be the equivalent of $1.50 a share today, so nearly a 10,000% increase in share price. Would I have made more money moving around? It's hard to know. You can't A/B test decisions like this. Here's the thing about hopping jobs to get a better salary. Most of the time, you'll be employed while evaluating an offer from elsewhere. If the new offer is higher than your current one, then you'll make more money by taking the new offer. You don't need advice from me to know that. But make sure that you're actually leaving for a better situation. You'll regret the move if your new manager is bad, the workplace is toxic, they work you to the bone, and the technology stack and engineering practices are terrible. When my manager didn't put me into the system for promotion, I was really angry at him, and I wanted to move teams. There was a manager I knew from a previous role that I had at Amazon, and during a coffee chat, said that he could use another senior engineer on the team. I was about to make a move, but before I did, I was curious about the tech survey results. At Amazon, there's a yearly tech survey where all engineers answer questions about their experience working at the company, within an organization, and about their management. The responses are anonymous, and they ask the same questions every year, so it's a good source of information about employee satisfaction. I trusted this manager quite a bit because we had worked together in the past. He was a really solid engineer back then, and I was ready to leave when I looked at the results, and they were shocking. Their operational burden was bad. The perceived quality of the code base was bad. Team members didn't think that management was leading them towards success. Basically, the team was way worse than the team I was currently on. You need to do everything that you can to make sure you'll be in a better position after moving. You shouldn't move teams just based on salary alone. So make sure to interview your new company as much as they interview you. It needs to be a two-way street. You've indicated that you want to optimize for money, which is a good reason, but prioritizing total compensation might mean that you're sacrificing other things like career growth, quality of life, moving to a place that you don't want to live, relationships, and doing things that you don't want to do. Take all that into account before you jump ship. Good luck. Jesse Muniz asks, "Hello, Steve. How do I know when to leave a job that lets me work on projects well above my qualifications? I find that there's a lot of advice for bad jobs, but what about the good ones where you're improving? Grass is greener syndrome is strong with me, wondering if I should take the lower pay for opportunities to learn, and I wouldn't get for years." What I'm interpreting from your question is whether you should take a pay cut to grow yourself, because you find that the work that you're currently doing is boring, but the pay is good. I think that the way that you frame the question is a bit odd. ¿Por qué no los dos? Why do you think that you would have to take lower pay to grow? I think it's awesome that you're getting compensated well right now for work that you have good handle on. You're literally growing your years of experience. People with 2 years of experience make much more money than those with 0 years of experience. If you think that you're a big fish in a small pond, I encourage you to find a bigger pond. But the mindset that you should have is that you're more valuable now that you have 2 years of experience. I have a soft spot in my heart for self-taught programmers because I'm one too. You really have to scratch and claw to get that first job. But here's the thing. Once you have some numbers of years of experience, nobody cares where you went to school or how you obtained your knowledge. You are valuable. Look for a job that will up-level your skills and give you more money. It's time to break out of that scarcity mindset. Good luck. I'd like to take a second to thank today's video sponsor, Brilliant.org. I say this a lot, but I have an unlimited budget for learning and self-improvement. Passive reading or watching videos is probably the worst way to learn something. It gives you a false sense that you deeply understand things. Brilliant has lessons on mathematics, computer science, AI, and more, with new ones added every month. They've just added a course on LLMs that I'm in the middle of. I'm no beginner when it comes to machine learning and computer science, but I'm also not an expert on the bleeding edge of generative AI. I use Brilliant to make sure that I have a solid understanding of the concepts and terminology. If I get the basics wrong during a meeting, I lose a lot of credibility, which at this point in my career is my most valuable asset. Brilliant is a wonderful resource for me so I can stay up to date on things that aren't my core area of expertise. To try everything Brilliant has to offer, free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/alifeengineered or click on the link in the description. The first 200 of you will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. New content is added all the time. They just added a course on predicting with probability, creative coding, and exploring data visually. I'd like to thank Brilliant again for sponsoring today's video. User asks, how to handle promo rejections. After no promo to IC5, I've quit one company to join FANG at the same level, just to face the same no-go decision after some time. It's mentally breaking to stay at the same level for 6 years. Hey man, I feel you. I've been there. It took 5 tries and 8 years to get to L7 at Amazon. It was a slog, and I don't wish that on anybody. But here's a story that will lead to my last point. I mentored a guy that moved teams a lot because he didn't have a lot of luck getting promoted. He was technically deep, had a knack for delivering projects on time despite really big obstacles, and dealt with ambiguity really well. But he was difficult to work with. He was condescending. So when he changed companies and teams, he took the good parts and the bad parts with him. He wasn't promoted in the first, second, or third team for the exact same reason. And that's my final point. You shouldn't change teams if the change that needs to occur is within yourself. You may or may not be in the same place as this guy, but I would start there. I've got 2 pieces of advice for you. First is that high-level tech promotions are like playing a video game on the hardest setting. You should recognize that what you're trying to do is exceptional. A lot of engineers that I really respect didn't get through on the first try, including myself. So you're in good company. If it was really easy to do, everybody would be doing it. Recognize that aiming high means that you might miss. The second piece of advice is that the feedback that you get from a rejection is gold. Feedback from a rejection means that they're giving you a map to the level that you died on. At most large companies, they will tell you exactly why you didn't get through. After you've picked yourself off the ground and are ready to make another push, use that feedback to craft a plan that targets exactly that feedback that was given to you. If you get systematic about it, the next time you try and fail will result in more specific and more actionable feedback. When you're stuck, the more detailed that you can be about why you're stuck means that you can be much more specific and focused with trying to get unstuck. Only after I became much more structured about addressing my feedback did my promotion seem to gather some steam. It could be that the company that you just left is the reason that you didn't get there. But if you're getting the same feedback as your previous company, maybe it's you. Take any and all critical feedback you receive and treat it like a gift. Then, do everything you can to address those gaps specifically. If you found this video useful, please make sure to check out my previous office hours where I talk about whether it makes sense to help others around you. If you've seen that, check out this video on how I have time for everything that's going on in my busy life.